Michael Jimenez. Halftime.
Welcome into halftime right here on San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250 and 1033 FM. I am James Fletcher, sitting in for Michael Jimenez today. I'm joined by Carl Schoening. We are your break to the midday. Carl, this has got to be like one of the biggest days of the year for you.
So the NBA draft is Christmas. I think free agency is Hanukkah since it goes out about 6 or 7 days with all the big deals. You know what I mean? What
is
does
this
that
like
to make
your
today?
birthday?
Is today like Easter maybe?
Do you get presents on Easter?
No, I guess I don't.
Your birthday?
Yeah, we could go with the birthday, but I always get gifts on my birthday.
Valentine's Day?
Yeah, well, sometimes you get gifts on Valentine's Day, so maybe it's closer to Valentine's Day since it's timing appropriate. But the NBA trade deadline has already delivered gifts to some NBA fans, including the Spurs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have our third trade of the season so far, as Carl, fill us in with the details, as the Spurs make a pretty big move getting rid of a guy we were wondering if they were actually going to get rid of or not.
Yeah, the Thaddeus Young drama is over, as I know that there's a lot of people that were wondering since the beginning of the season what was going to happen with Thaddeus Young. There was always the assumption that maybe Phoenix would send him for Dario Saric and a first-round pick. I don't think that the Suns were ever interested in giving up a first-round pick, and then that would also potentially ruin the Spurs salary cap. The expectations versus reality actually are very good when it comes to the reality, because here's the trade. According to Shams Charania and Woj, the Raptors will receive Thaddeus Young, Drew Eubanks, and the Pistons 2022 second rounder from the Spurs, because the Spurs had the Pistons 22 second round pick. That was going to be something that I was kind of looking forward to on draft night. Now I get to get that second round pick a little bit earlier, because the Spurs will receive Goran Dragic, Toronto's 2022 first rounder that's protected 1 through 14. And if for some reason it doesn't convey this year because the Raptors don't make the playoffs, next year it is 1 through 13 protected in 2023. And then if it doesn't convey either of those years, it goes into a second round picks.
But so they are, as of right now, a playoff team firmly in the playoffs. And they're only going to get better with this trade, theoretically.
Yeah, theoretically, I believe that this is a trade that makes them better, because Dragic wasn't playing. I want to say he only played like 5 games to start the season, and Woj says that the Spurs are likely to buy out Goran Dragic.
Yes.
So that don't expect to see Dragic, who was drafted with the Spurs pick and then traded for Malik Hairston. Oh man, was that 2010? That feels like so long ago. Might have been 2008 if I'm not mistaken. And it looks like, it seems at least, that Dragic is going to be bought out and then signed with the Mavericks.
Exactly. I was going to say that. It looks like the favorites to land the buyout of Dragic right now is the Dallas Mavericks, which is fine. Joe Medellin on our YouTube live feed says, third trade? I might have to buy lotto tickets. Mario Cavazos on our Facebook live says, what are they doing?
I thought it was a good move, because obviously you're talking about Thaddeus Young, who hasn't been part of the Spurs rotation all year. So you preserved salary cap. Yeah, you preserve salary cap space, and you might get a pick that could be somewhere around the late teens, early 20s, depending on how everything figures to shake out. And yeah, there's not much more that you could really say. The Spurs basically turned DeMar DeRozan, who's going to be leaving in free agency anyway, into 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks, and you can't ask for anything better.
And they still have all of their own first-round picks. So this is a team that is building for the future with ammunition in terms of draft picks, which can be used either in trades or in the fact to just stockpile and build through the draft, which we've seen the Spurs do multiple times. John Dyer says on our Facebook live feed, let's go get Kai. I don't want to brag, but most of San Antonio was very upset with a poll that I put out earlier in the week when I heard that Jakob Poeltl could be on the move and the Chicago Bulls were offering a first. And I said, hey, the Hornets need help at the center position. Plumlee's their big. They need some help. What if you were to get Kai, someone to fill the salary and match it, and a first-round pick? Overwhelmingly, no.
It was like above 50%, right?
It was
Somewhere close to
above
60.
50%, and I gave them just those options.
You gave him a third option, didn't you? It's like,
who
I don't
am
care.
I, Humanis?
Yeah, right.
That's
funny.
what it was.
Yeah. And that counts as a no, I think.
But at the same time, there is now a new report from Hoops Hype that has the Spurs and Hornets talking about Jakob Poeltl. You want to fill us in?
So the rumor is from Hoops Hype. This comes from Mike Scotto, as he phrases it. I believe it's Jakob Poeltl for PJ Washington, Kai Jones, and a first-round pick. That's the general framework. And obviously, in that scenario, the Spurs would be losing the best player. You send Jakob Poeltl to Charlotte, and that's a big blow to your team.
Sure.
And any real chance of, I think, going after that play-in spot, because Kai Jones, although he's 6'11", is averaging 3 minutes a game and has only played in 16 games this year. I actually saw Kai Jones play for the Greensboro Swarm this year, and he wasn't even playing in the fourth quarter of a close game. So, I think that there's still a lot of raw talent there with Kai Jones, freak athlete. But the key there, if the trade were to go down, is that first-round pick, which means the Spurs would be stockpiling first.
It's not only the first-round pick. PJ Washington is a huge piece as well. I love me some PJ Washington.
He's a nice floor spacer at the forward spot. I wouldn't be opposed to him being a potential piece going into the future, but he's going into the final year of his rookie deal next year, which means that you would probably have to figure out, is he really going to be part of your long-term plans, or are you just doing this for the first-round pick? And then Kai Jones would be very similar. You'd probably want to send him to Austin based off of how things are going with him. But, hey, he did go to the UT, and I'm sure he would feel comfortable playing in Austin. But he's also very athletic, and the Spurs don't have a freak athlete like Kai Jones.
I love me some PJ Washington. I think he's
a good shooter.
He's a good shooter. He's a good defender.
Good size.
Great size. Something that the Spurs could use, especially if you're losing a Jakob Poeltl, is some more size. It helps also kind of transition, in my opinion, Keldon to his more natural 3 spot than a 4. And I do see the possibility of PJ Washington being like a Mikal Bridges in a sense, and a guy that just he's a guy that gives you something. Plus, you're getting a first-round pick. Plus, you are getting a lottery ticket in Kai Jones. He was a projected lottery pick. He has underwhelmed to this point, but the Spurs are great at developing talent. You send them to Austin for a little bit. That could be huge, and I would not be upset if that trade went down.
So it looks like to me, because I'm just pulling up the basketball reference page for PJ Washington, he had a really good rookie year, averaged 12 points per game. He slightly improved on that his sophomore year at 12.9 points per game. And this is the first year that he's actually not averaging double figures, but it's really close at 9.9 points per game. So you're talking about a role player guy that for his career shoots 38% from 3. This year he's shooting 38.6%. Last year he shot 38.6%, and he shoots over 4 threes a game. So that's actually a shooter at a forward spot that could sort of help the Spurs with their need to find better 3-point shooters, because obviously we talked about it earlier. The first trade of this entire trade season for the Spurs was Bryn Forbes, the team's best shooter, first, second-round pick from the Nuggets. And then they were able to flip Juancho Hernan-Gomez, who came over in that trade, to now the Blazers, and they were able to get a Utah 2027 second-round pick. So basically, Bryn Forbes for 2 second-round picks. And then today, Thaddeus Young for a first-round pick. And I think stockpiling all of these draft picks is the best way to work it, because the draft in this NBA salary cap age is the best way to find good talent to fill out your roster that really they've become more valuable than they've ever become, especially those first round picks. I'm really interested to see if the Spurs are done making trades, or if this is just the tip of the iceberg. And because there have been rumors, and we can't really speak to the validity of these rumors because they're not from like a Woj or Shams, but There's talk of the Atlanta Hawks being interested in Derrick White.
Yep.
There is the thought process that maybe the Spurs might make that Jakob Poeltl trade. There's plenty of teams that want Jakob Poeltl because he is one of the best centers, especially considering his price point. So I don't know if the Spurs are going to find a move that they like, because there is some part of me that thinks that the Spurs are still going to try for a play-in tournament game. But that's a best-case scenario, unfortunately, at this point. Outright making the playoffs doesn't seem mathematically possible unless the Spurs go on easily their biggest winning streak of the season. I do like this team. I wish that there weren't so many COVID, whether it's on COVID health and safety protocols among the coaches or the players. Didn't seem like the big chunk of this season up to this point they've been able to really build on chemistry. However, if they set themselves up, I think I was checking it out this morning, if they were to renounce the rights to their free agents, they would be somewhere around $40 million in cap space. If you were to maybe have that opens up a lot of trade possibilities. It makes you one of the major players in free agency signings this summer. And I think the rebuild could be a lot quicker than if, some people who look at this team just based off of what's on paper with their record, only 20 wins and things like that. The Spurs do have some stuff here, some pieces moving forward. And now building on these 2 first-round picks this upcoming draft, I like the way this team's future is going to be shaping out. And we'll just see if maybe they're done for today, because we're going to keep an eye on our Twitter notifications, or if there's more going on.
Quinn Hudson, host of the Sunday Sports Grill, asks, what are the expectations for any second-round pick when the Spurs barely want to play primo? Here's the thing, Quinn. Second-round picks are useful in a bunch of different ways. Nikola Jokic was a second-round pick. Draymond Green was a second-round pick. You look at Manu Ginobili being a second-round pick, and I get it, not all players are going to be that player, but you also see second-round picks flipped for cash a lot of times in that second round, especially when you have a multitude of second-round picks. People come up and buy them from you, so you get money for them.
Somewhere around pick 45, it becomes a home run contest. You're just swinging for the fences on guys that you think might be talented enough to develop into something. After pick 45, you really are getting into a crapshoot.
Sure.
However, the way
it's
the Spurs,
like the 7th round of the NFL draft.
Yeah.
Like you're drafting based on, I see something. Can I mold that something into something else?
But let's look at the Spurs' second-round picks that they've acquired this year. Obviously, the 2022 Bulls second-round pick that they got in the DeMar DeRozan trade is likely to be somewhere in the late, I don't know, 40s into the 50s, perhaps. That's really where we're looking at that pick probably falling, depending on how they finish off their season. It'll probably be in the 50s. However, they got a 2025 first and second round pick from the Bulls. So they own the entire 2025 NBA draft from Chicago. And that could be a pretty good deal, because who knows where this team will be in 4 years, or I guess that's 3 years. Man, we're in 2022, but that's not too bad. But then the other picks you look at, are the Nuggets still going to be good in 2028? Was that the pick that they got Bryn Forbes for? And then are the Blazers going to be?
I mean, it's irrelevant. We're still talking about second round picks.
We're talking about second round picks, but the way Brian Wright decided to select these picks in the future could be better second round picks than where those teams project right now. So the Jazz and the Nuggets, those are going to be in 2027 and 2028, not as good as they are right now, you would expect.
Look at the Rockets picks and pick swaps. It's all
they have a lot.
It's all a lot from Brooklyn that they, Brooklyn's going to be good for the next few years. So some of those pick swaps won't convey. But you look further down the road, James Harden already wants out. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving coming up on player options. These 5 years, 6 years down the road, you don't know what they're going to be. They may be a dumpster fire. The Rockets in the Westbrook for Wall swap that is being talked about want that Lakers 2027 first round pick, because the Lakers salary cap is gone at that point. Like they've got all this money tied up in LeBron and everybody through these contracts. And at some point, those guys aren't going to be there, and they're hoping that turns into something else. That's why you get future picks. I get it. but be happy. They have ammunition. Ammunition is used to trade, move up and down the board, to trade for other players. Look at these players right now, today, going for second-round picks that you could possibly acquire later down the road when other players' contracts are coming up or looking to be moved at the deadline.
And it frustrates me anytime we bring up the conversation of first round, or not first round picks, salary cap space. And people are just like, no one's going to sign in San Antonio. A, not with that attitude. B, salary cap space is more than just free agent signings. It's also the ability to make trades. So just hypothetically, let's say Ben Simmons isn't moved today for James Harden. We haven't even dived into that one. That's going to be an interesting conversation. But let's just say, for example, that Ben Simmons is going to stay put in Philadelphia, and the 76ers would like to open up that cap space to chase James Harden as a free agent. They're going to need to move Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons. So a team like the Spurs or the Blazers, who made all of these moves to get salary cap space, could essentially just absorb a Ben Simmons and send a lot of first-round picks and create the salary cap for Philadelphia to maybe go after a James Harden. And thus that salary cap space wasn't used on a free agent. It was to essentially, your free agent signing was a trade for, it seems like every few months, a star player is requested a trade in the NBA. So having that salary cap space around the draft is a pretty solid idea.
It's never a bad thing to have salary cap space. While not being used to lure a free agent, it can be used in a multitude of other ways. Look, John Collins just signed that massive extension in Atlanta. All of a sudden, Atlanta may be looking to move John Collins. All of a sudden, you have the cap space to be able to then do that.
Oh, we got a Woj bomb, though.
I get it, buddy. Hold on. I've got effects. You can just send me a visual cue.
It's a big one, though.
I understand. That's why I have to use the. Look, we spend a lot of money to use these pre-produced and voice guy things, so I need to get these in. So
this is breaking news from San Antonio Sports Star.
I am a happy Philadelphia 76ers fan, as this one comes straight from Woj. The Brooklyn Nets are trading James Harden to the Philadelphia 76ers for Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and 2 first-round picks, sources tell ESPN. The Nets' Sean Marks swindled Daryl Morey. This is what Daryl Morey does to everybody. But either way, it looks like the 76ers will get out of the Ben Simmons saga, and James Harden will be a 76er by Saturday.
That's fantastic.
Today, by the end of the day.
That's fantastic for them. Look, you look at this. James Harden gets what he wants yet again. This is his MO now. And as a Sixers fan, if things don't go well this year, if things between Embiid and Harden don't work out the way you would like, there is the possibility that you could lose James Harden, Ben Simmons, for nothing more than Seth Curry and Andre Drummond, right?
Sorry, go.
I'm sorry.
Seth Curry and Drummond are going to the Nets.
Going to the Nets, but you end up losing Simmons, you end up losing Simmons, Curry, Drummond, and 2 first-round picks.
Yeah, and it looks like the Nets are including Paul Millsap in the deal too, which is not a big deal.
And
for
if
the Sixers.
Harden decides at the end of the year with his player option that he is not happy as he thought he would be in Philadelphia, you just lost 2 firsts, Ben Simmons, like all of this trade value that you had for basically half of a season.
You know, being a 76ers fan has been a roller coaster. You obviously had the process, and then once the process had somewhat worked in terms of getting those high value picks, Joel Embiid sat out 2 years, Ben Simmons sat out a year, Ben Simmons sat out this year because of a trade demand. I watch these 76ers right now, and they just don't have a second star. They keep Tyrese Maxey. They lose a shooter, and they don't get back a shooter. I was thinking they might get Patty Mills. It looks like that's going to be Paul Millsap in this case. That's a little annoying. However,
gives you some depth in the front court. Yeah,
James Harden is really the key. Well, losing Andre Drummond is a bigger deal than he's been playing great as the backup for Embiid. But, you know, the Sixers have been missing a second star. And ever since the Embiid had really shown what he was going to be in the NBA, a player like a James Harden has really been somebody that I would call a dream matchup. This is the dynamic duo 1-2 punch that can win the East.
Yes.
And this was not something that I could say about the 76ers in terms of maybe winning the East without a trade like this. So as a 76ers fan, it's nice to have the Ben Simmons saga done.
Yep.
And Daryl Morey holding out for a star, even though he gave up the picks and Seth Curry and Andre Drummond on top of it for Ben Simmons.
And Ben Simmons.
You get James Harden, who is arguably one of the best scorers in this league's history. And if he's motivated, I think in this particular case, he'll be motivated to at least finish out the season strong. You know, you're going to have a good player to pair with Embiid.
Yeah, and it's great. Like, in theory, this is a fantastic thing. James Harden is one of the most prolific scorers in NBA history. And as a Rockets fan, I have seen a lot of James Harden. I love me some James Harden, even when a lot of people didn't. He is crafty. He is heady. His defense doesn't get enough credit at times, but he is also moody. And,
I can agree with that.
And on top of that, he doesn't play well with others. He is at his best when he is the sole focus of a team. So playing with another star, it didn't work in Brooklyn. It didn't work in Oklahoma City, and it didn't work in Houston, multiple different variations of it, whether it was Dwight Howard or Chris Paul or Russell Westbrook. All three went south, and they went south very quickly. So pairing him with Embiid, it is a huge gamble for Daryl Morey, and Daryl Morey knows this better than anybody because he's had to deal with it for a long time in Houston and watching it flame out 3 separate times.
And I wonder if Daryl Morey is the key here to maybe keep James Harden happy. Because if you remember, there was just a mass exodus in Houston this summer. I'm sure you remember. Maybe it was last summer where Morey was gone, D'Antoni was gone.
Yep.
He didn't even leave for another head coaching job. He left for the assistant coaching job in Brooklyn. And Morey retired for 2 weeks before he took that job. And then James Harden was like Will Smith at the end of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, just looking around. Where's everybody at right now? Because they had also traded Russell Westbrook away from Houston. So I get what happened in Houston. And now I'm just speculating.
But it's not just Houston. Look at everywhere he's been.
Yeah, well,
it has not gone well.
He wanted a max contract with Oklahoma City, and they weren't willing to give him that. So that's why he moved out of Oklahoma City.
He moved out of Oklahoma City because of that. And I know this personally because I followed it very closely as they were trying to trade for him. He was unhappy with his 6th man role and thought that he deserved to be the front of his own team.
And what do you know? He's actually right about that for the most part. Although what kind of a dynasty that would have been had he been a Manu Ginobili 6-man role, we never know. But on top of that, I wonder if maybe Harden just got frustrated in Brooklyn this year because Kyrie Irving refused to get the shot. And you know that's probably something that's a conversation among the people. If you're talking about Kyrie Irving only playing road games for an indefinite amount of time, although I understand that New York might be lifting those, something happened to where James Harden doesn't want to be in Brooklyn anymore. We've heard rumblings and then, finally fruition today. But the most amazing thing out of all of this, I know we're up against it, so I'll just kind of wrap it up. This morning, Woj tweeted out that James Harden didn't want to formally ask for a trade request because he didn't want there to be a public backlash of requesting 2 trades from 2 franchises in 2 years. Who do you think told Woj?
It's already out there, though. Look at yesterday with Brian Windhorst when he came on and said the extent of unhappiness that James Harden has, he wants out in the worst possible way. This is an exact quote from Brian Windhorst. Like, it's already out there. You can't put that toothpaste back into the tube. And it's just incredible to see that the biggest domino has fallen in this trade market. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out because of the leverage that James Harden holds. And if things don't go according to plan the rest of the second half of the season, this offseason may even be more interesting than this coming postseason.
The NBA offseason is always the most interesting part of the NBA, even though basketball isn't being played. I thoroughly love the draft and all of that stuff. I want to apologize for cutting you off on that Woj bomb. I just got really excited. Now we know what the sign is. Now we know what the sign is, though, because we have
something. Do a jumping jack. I don't care.
We have an hour and a half of Woj bombs left, most likely. We're going to have Jeff Garcia join us at 1:30. This is halftime here on San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250 and 103.3 FM. Stick with us, y'all.
San Antonio Sports Star is live from LA all week leading up to the game.
Always sacrifice.
The Rams, the Bengals. Balls will be flying and pads will be cracking as both teams give their all for pigskin immortality. The latest news, moves, and A-list guests.
Joining us now, the Moves, Daryl Johns. We get to talk to Michael Irvin.
Don't miss a minute. All week, presented by AA Best Bail Bonds, Nearside Texas Chia Liquor, and Southern Recipe Small Batch Pork Rinds. San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN 1250 and 103.3 FM.
Do you love your garage? Can you get your cars and the kids' bikes in? Jason Minix here for Garageization, your garage storage solution. With a variety of shelving, overhead racks, slat walls, and closed cabinet options, Garageization can make your garage functional for the entire family. Call 210-664-4494 and have them give you a free customized plan for your family's needs. For over a decade, Garageization has helped people love their garage. Learn more online at GarageOrganizationSanAntonio.com.
Where will you be on the biggest NFL Sunday? Well, get to Twin Peaks for the best seats made from scratch food and 29-degree cold beer. It's a football fan's paradise. No one wants to sit in the nosebleeds, especially on the biggest Sunday of the season. That's why Twin Peaks is there to give you front row viewing on all the big game with all the great TVs. Who you got, the Bengals or the Rams? Make the call and visit one of the 3 San Antonio Twin Peaks locations this Sunday for the biggest NFL Sunday of the year. Twin Peaks, eats, drinks, and those scenic views.
When you need an electrician, Hill Electric is available 24/7 for residential and commercial needs. If you're having to rework your office, let Hill Electric design your socially distanced space to ensure each workstation has the proper electrical needs. For over 35 years, the family-owned Hill Electric has served San Antonio. There is never a service charge and always free estimates. Call Hill Electric at 210-404-9074. That's 404-9074. Or go to hill-electric.com.
Jackson Hewitt needs you to know 3 things about filing taxes this year. 1, there are thousands of dollars worth of new tax credits on the table. 2, you have to file for them to make sure you get the right amount. 3, a Jackson Hewitt Tax Pro will help track down every credit you deserve. Tax credits for being a parent, taking care of a parent, going to school, and so much more. You don't want to miss out on thousands. Jackson Hewitt knows that. Discover thousands in tax credits and get your biggest refund guaranteed. Learn more at jacksonhewitt.com.
1911 Cigars is the premier cigar lounge in South Texas, providing quality, affordable cigars in a professional, inviting environment with a large covered patio with TVs. A BYOB establishment, 1911 Cigars strives to allow the avid cigar connoisseur a comfortable place to relax, socialize, network, and of course enjoy a great cigar. 1911 Cigars is available for private events and has private cabanas with TVs, fire pits, and heaters. 1911 Cigars at 207 South Main Street in Cibolo. Online at 1911cigars.com.
That dinner was delicious. What's next?
I'm thinking just the check.
Do you frequently have gas, bloating, diarrhea, stomach pain, or loose oily stools after eating? One or more of these symptoms could be a sign of exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI, and it may be time to talk to your doctor.
If you have EPI, Creon may be right for you. Creon, pancrelipase, is an oral prescription medication that treats EPI. Creon replaces enzymes you may be missing to help you break down food properly.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Do not chew capsules or contents as this may cause mouth irritation. Tell your doctor if you have unusual or severe stomach pain, bloating, trouble passing stool, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, worsening of painful swollen joints, or allergic reactions. Other side effects may include changes in blood sugars, gas, dizziness, or sore throat and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon.
Talk to your doctor about Creon, the #1 prescribed EPI treatment, and visit gocreon.com. That's GOCREON.com. Or call 1-800-633-9110.
If you get arrested, get out of jail fast by calling AA Best Bail Bonds, 210-225-2121. Text bail to 474747 or online at mybestbailbonds.com. You don't have to call attorneys or anybody else. Don't be forced into a PR bond. If the jail offers you one, make sure you understand the conditions before accepting it. AA Best Bail Bonds. Nobody beats their price. They have payment plans. Call 210-225-2121 or mybestbailbonds.com.
License number 149.
No one covers the Bengals and Rams more than a little sports station down in San Antonio, Texas. Always have San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN 1250 and 103.3 FM.
Welcome back to halftime right here on San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250 and 103.3 FM. It is a crazy, crazy day. It is NBA trade deadline day. It is Carl's. It's your birthday.
Let's go with that.
It's your birthday.
Yeah, because I thought we said Valentine's Day. You know, it's a good day to show love to the NBA. You might get a gift. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you feel stood up because somebody like teased you with a trade and they didn't show up. Speaking of Valentine's Day, John on Twitter reaches out at SA Sports Star. He is at Carl ESPN. I am at I am Pledger. Says if Brian Wright gets a third 2022 first rounder, Kai Jones and PJ Washington, which there are reports that there is a trade being discussed with the Hornets for Jakob Poeltl. John says he's driving to San Antonio with a dozen roses and a box of chocolates for him. Yeah, you know, I think a lot of people owe Brian Wright an apology because he's really been in hologram. Yeah, that's what Michael Jimenez calls him. Obviously, the Spurs are not an organization where leaks get out. I can tell you as someone who works within the Spurs organization, I don't know anything because they just know how to keep those things quiet. I just speculate along with the rest of you because I'm on the radio and I'm on Twitter and such. Oh, you don't talk to people in the organization? I do. No. Oh, do you? Good for you. I've got insights. Yeah. Wait, how do you think I know about the Charlotte thing? Yeah, sure. I think you should go to Vegas if it actually goes down. Dude, if this goes down, I am going to be insufferable. But what a good day it is for the NBA. You have the blockbuster with Ben Simmons and James Harden that just went down. If you didn't hear about it, Ben Simmons was traded to Brooklyn with Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and 2 first-round picks. James Harden goes to Philadelphia to be paired up with Joel Embiid. So you have 2 MVP-caliber players playing in Philadelphia. And then if you look at it from the Spurs angle, there's the Thaddeus Young for Goran Dragic. And the Spurs had the Pistons 2022 second-round pick this year, which was going to be in the 30s, and they were able to move up somewhere around 10 to 15 spots by taking on the Raptors lottery protected 2022 first round pick. But then, yeah, rumors are just kind of floating around as to what else the Spurs might do, which you see Derrick White in the conversations. And if you listen to Michael Jimenez, Derrick White doesn't have much trade value in his eyes. But if you listen to people around the league, they'll say that Derrick White is somebody that can help out a contender or a playoff team and try and help them with their push. So I understand why somebody like Atlanta might want to pair up Derrick White with Trey Jones. You can kind of go 2 combo guards in the backcourt there. And one of them very defensive oriented to help Trey Young. I say Trey Jones, Trey Young. Thank you very much. You know, and then there are the situations where the teams might just say, hey, you know, this is fine. We're going to go into, instead of making a hasty move just to make a move, we're going to go into the post-trade deadline part of the season with the guys we got. And if we really do want to trade somebody later on, that's where we're going to do it. In the offseason, when there's a little bit more flexibility to do things, teams will have salary cap space, or teams will be looking to open up some salary cap space. And, you know, I think it's a little easier to negotiate 3 or 4 team trades. But just listening to Woj this morning on J. Will, Keyshawn, and Max, KJM, it's Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max, I should say. It seems like a lot of teams have a big old whiteboard, and they have all of their potential trades that they might be in, and they're just mulling it over because there's a lot of 3-team, a lot of 4-team frameworks for trades that we're never going to hear about. And Woj obviously hears about them, but at the end of the day, they're all conversations that are ongoing. And then I want to say earlier last night, I saw that the Mavericks were interested in trading Kristaps Porzingis for Pascal Siakam and Goran Dragic. And that didn't happen, obviously, because the Spurs traded for Goran Dragic. So now, is Porzingis still on the trade block? Is there something that they might be able to get? Or is Porzingis stuck being a Maverick? You didn't get your guy in Pascal Siakam. So now is Porzingis going to still pull in somebody on that level? I don't think so. I think that that's a tougher contract to trade.
Little bit of context to the trade, the big trade that went down between the Nets and 76ers. Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN says the Nets get the Sixers 2020 first-round pick, unprotected, or I'm guessing 2022 first-round pick, unprotected with a right to defer until 2023, a 2027 first-round pick protected 1 through 8, and that 2027 pick will roll over to 28, protected 1 through 8 again, and it turns into 2 seconds and $2 million in 2029.
I almost feel like this is in college football when you see that, hey, Texas and Alabama have scheduled a game for 2027. I'm like, okay, wake me up when it's 2027. You know, with all these picks going down, you forget that this happened. It'll be 2027 by the time we realize James Harden is out of the league and Joel Embiid is in his twilight of his career, and the Nets are like, hey, we have your pick from that.
But in terms of the way the way the deal is structured, or the way the pick is conveyed, this one this year is going to be a very late first-round pick that they're giving up, obviously. And then that one in 2027, the team has the hopes of obviously still being good. You're going to have Ben Simmons for 5 years left on that deal.
This is the first of a 4-year extension, if I'm not mistaken. So they'll have him this year and 3 more years.
So you've got him up to that pick. You hopefully re-sign him, keep that team big, and then all of the sudden that pick turns into 2 seconds and $2 million.
This is breaking news from San Antonio Sports Star.
This one comes from Shams Charania of The Athletic. The Boston Celtics are trading Josh Richardson to San Antonio for Derrick White.
That's it?
That's the first tweet that came out a minute ago. You know how Shams is. He has to tweet out the headline, and then we're going to get the body of the article here in a minute. So I don't know if the Celtics are going to be maybe throwing something else in, but you remember the Celtics made a move earlier, Bol and PJ Dozier to Orlando, and the Magic now have those 2 players. That opens up a roster spot for this trade. We'll see what else there is, but that means Derrick White is on the move, according to Shams. Shams has been wrong about the Spurs before. Last year during the trade deadline, he said that Trey Lyles was going to be moved to the Mavericks. So obviously these are far from official, but usually that is something that here we go again. Chris Haynes now confirms that Boston trading Josh Richardson and a first-round pick to San Antonio for Derrick White. League sources say.
It is.
And is Josh Richardson on an expiring deal? He just signed a contract, didn't he? Wasn't he with the Mavericks last year? And this is the first year of a contract with Boston. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe so. You'll have to double check to make sure.
I'm going to check it out right now. We're doing some producing on the fly. I did not have Josh Richardson on my bingo card going to San Antonio, but another first-round pick is certainly an interesting sway there. And then on top of that, Brooklyn, according to Woj, is still looking to make some aggressive moves now that they're armed with 2 Philadelphia first-round picks. So they're not done wheeling and dealing either. And we'll see once my salaries load up what it's looking like with Josh Richardson. But I do think that Derrick White to Boston, we've heard rumors nonstop, it seems, of DeJounte Murray being a target of Boston. But now Derrick White going to Boston, I suppose that, it hurts me a little. I love D. White. I saw him win a championship in Austin. I followed him since his summer league days. This one stings a little, Pledge. I'm going to miss D. White. I really am.
D. White was a solid person. And
above a solid person, but a solid player.
And a great person. Sorry. But you look at it, and Josh Richardson, what they're getting another 6'6" forward guard combo type guy that they can use. He's 12, 13 point in his best season, over 16 points with Miami back in 2018-19. So I'm not sure exactly. Do you have the contract details on him yet?
Yeah, he is going to be making he makes 11.6 this year. He has one more year in his contract, 12.1 according to Hoops Hype. But the first round pick is obviously the first round pick is obviously the thing here. The Spurs are just accumulating assets here. That's beyond a bummer, because I really do enjoy watching Derrick White play basketball. He's just a monster defensively. I thought he was creative offensively,
and good for Ime Udoka to pull him in, because he feels like a guy that Boston is missing right now.
That's what I was about to get at. This makes a lot of sense for the future of D. White. He gets to sort of be the steady hand that works with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I would imagine
they don't really have a distributor on that team.
I was about to say, I imagine this makes him a point guard with that squad. I'm going to be watching a lot more Boston Celtics games. And by the way, the best thing about the Boston Celtics, if you're a League Pass person, watch their home broadcast. It's usually Brian Scalabrine, along with, I blank on his name, but it is a very native Boston accent play-by-play guy. He is smart. Yeah.
Wicked smart.
Yeah. So it's really fun to watch the Celtics, no matter what the score is, because he's a very Boston's type. I enjoy Northeast accents, but Boston is among my favorite for actual play-by-play jobs, because I don't know if he could actually pull off his accent anywhere else in the country, because it's so unique, those Boston accents. But yeah, bummer to see D. White go. Let's see. It says that Boston will also send Romeo Lankford to San Antonio, according to Chris Haynes. So Romeo Lankford was a first-round pick, I believe, 2 years ago. And he's out of St. John's, if I'm not mistaken, a solid kind of scoring guard. But he's obviously caught up in the just talent that they have at those positions. So
it's also making the numbers work.
Yeah, it's making the numbers work a little bit there too. But let me see, where do we have Romeo Lankford? He is on his rookie deal, so this is his sophomore year. And that's another Spurs trade. What is that, 4?
That is now the 4th Spurs trade, as we're still waiting on possibly 1 to 2 more, at least that I could possibly see going through at some point. Those being Jakob Poeltl, and the other I could see happening is some type of Lonnie Walker deal.
Well, this is what I kept telling guys like Rob and like Michael Jimenez. Just because the Spurs haven't done a trade in the past doesn't mean they won't be super active at this point. Previously on this, episode of San Antonio Spurs, they were contenders. They had a pretty set roster, and they were maybe trying to figure out how they could get somebody that could really help them without giving up anybody that is already helping them. In this particular case, the Spurs are trying to make the play-in spot, and I understand that this is just the scenario that you do. You're almost a seller to get these first-round picks for your future.
Does Primo get more time with this quickly?
I imagine that
does he end up back in Austin at any point this year?
I imagine he doesn't. It doesn't seem likely.
With Derrick White's exodus.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem likely. He was actually scheduled to play Iowa in Iowa the day that he was called back, and that was right before the start of the road trip and right before the trade deadline. And it's a bummer because, these guys, they've set roots here in San Antonio. The Derrick White was a draft pick in 2017, and, we signed him to an extension, and he was a solid player for the Spurs. But it's a business at the end of the day, and I just wish D. White the best of luck moving forward.
And Devin Vassell, Miggy, our guy, on our YouTube live feed says, with Vassell showing so much, he needs more minutes. That trade of Derrick White makes a whole lot of sense. I agree with you, Miggy. Devin Vassell needed to be in the starting lineup. I think this opens up a spot for him. We'll find out what's going to happen with Jakob Poeltl as the day goes on. NBA trade deadline is approaching. For Carl Schoening, you can follow him on Twitter at CarlESPN. I am at I Am Pledger. You can tweet at us at the station at SA Sports Star. When we come back, there's some things happening in the NFL. Of course, Radio Row going on strong. We've got a lot of guys coming. We're going to keep a close eye on what's going on with the deadline and what other possible moves could be coming down the pipe for the San Antonio Spurs. That's all coming up right here, including Jeff Garcia of Ken's 5. He's going to be jumping on at 1:30 to kind of break down what's been going on and how Brian Wright has been extremely active today. That's all coming up here on Halftime on San Antonio Sports Star, 1250 ESPN San Antonio and 103.3 FM.
We're following the Bengals and Rams all the way to LA. Live all week leading up to the big game. Don't miss a minute all week long. Presented by AA Best Bail Bonds, Nearside App, Texas Gia Liquor, and Southern Recipe Small Batch Pork Rinds. ESPN 1250 and 103.3 FM.
The San Antonio Spurs kicked off their annual rodeo road trip with a loss to the Cleveland Cavaliers last night, 105-92. The Cavs' Darius Garland led all scorers with 27 points. For the Spurs, they were led in scoring by Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell with 18 apiece. The Spurs also made a trade yesterday afternoon before today's 2 p.m. trade deadline, sending Juancho Hernan-Gomez to the Blazers in a 3-team deal. The Spurs got Tomas Satoransky and the Utah 2027 second-round pick in return. Tonight in Texas NBA action, the Rockets will host the Raptors in Houston with a 7 p.m. tip-off at Toyota Center. And the Mavericks play the Los Angeles Clippers in Dallas, with that game slated to tip off at 7:30. For San Antonio Sports Star, I'm Carl Schoening.
Hi, I'm Flo from Progressive. If you love the sports like me, you get annoyed with your team or player. So Progressive's going to help take your mind off your team or that player for a moment. Instead of thinking about how they lost that thing recently, think about Progressive letting you compare our direct rates side by side with competitors to easily find the lowest option. Don't worry, your sports ball team or player will get him next time. Hope this distraction from Progressive about easily comparing rates was helpful to not think about that last game or match or season. I mean, even though I love sports ball.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but thought it would be too difficult? Then try Babbel. Babbel starts by teaching you words and phrases that gradually get more complex. Soon, you're practicing short conversations. So in 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking a new language in a few weeks. Babbel is built around real life. It teaches you practical conversations that you will actually use. Babbel, language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free. Just go to Babbel.com today. That's Babbel.com.
And now an important message from Exergen. A critical new FDA study proves that non-contact thermometers are not accurate. They also have inaccurate information on their labels regarding accuracy. New COVID strains are on the rise, and non-contact manufacturers are being irresponsible at a time when accuracy matters. Accurate temperature measurements are essential. Switch to Exergen because they are accurate and backed by over 100 clinical studies. Be sure, be accurate with Exergen. Learn more at Exergen.com.
Not all pizza places are the same. Mellow Mushroom originated hand-tossed, stone-baked classic Southern pizza. Not in the mood for pizza? Order a calzone, hoagie, sandwich, burger, or a mellow salad and see how care goes into every item on the menu. Take your pick from 24 draft beers and or handcrafted cocktails. And many of the pizzas can be made gluten-free or vegan. Mellow Mushroom is at 1604 in Stone Oak Parkway. Hang with friends, watch the game, and mellow out at Mellow Mushroom.
Alamo Cycloplex, located at I-10, just down from De Zavala exit. Guess what, guys? They're celebrating 50 years of being in business. 50. If you've been in business for 50 years, you're obviously doing something right. And to kick off the 50 years, guess what they did? They went and added 8,500 square feet of new showroom. I've seen it. I've posted it on my social media. Go and check it out. It looks beautiful. I can't wait for you guys to see it. The KTMs are in. And if you're a bike fan, you know what I'm talking about when I let you know those KTMs are in. And they're beautiful. They got the slingshots, KTM, wave runners, jet skis, bikes, anything and everything you can think of. They sell fun. That's what it's all about at Alamo Cycloplex. Check them out at alamocycloplex.com or just go to the location and look at the showroom yourself if you don't believe me. Go and check them out for yourself at alamocycloplex.com. alamocycloplex.com. We sell fun.
So here's the deal. If you're an entrepreneur, a contractor, gigster, self-employed, or a freelancer, that means you're in business for yourself, which means you can get a business bank account that pays you back 2.2% in 2022. It's called Nearside.com. And right now, it's free. I get it. Usually when banks say free, they drop the R and it's fee. Monthly fee, overdraft fee. With Nearside, there's no fees, not even a sign-up fee. I'm talking free, the kind that feels like sunshine and makes you do a happy dance, especially when your Nearside debit card pays you back the 2.2 in 2022. That's 2.2% of everything you buy for taking care of business. From a laptop or a paintbrush to work shoes and cheeseburgers, it's free money back into your business. No hidden fees, just really, truly free. Start your free account today at nearside.com/free. Debit card rebate restrictions apply. Visit nearside.com for details. Nearside is not a bank. Banking services are provided by Lending Club Bank N.A. member FDIC. Nearside.com/free.
The Bengals and the Rams are headed to L.A. for the big game. We've got you covered all week long, live from Los Angeles. Presented by AA Best Bail Bonds, Nearside App, Texas Chia Liquor, and Southern Recipe Small Batch Pork Rinds. ESPN 1250 and 103.3 FM.
This is Joe Reinig on your home for everything that matters in sports. San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN 1250 and 103.3 FM.
Welcome back into San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250, 103.3 FM. You're locked into halftime, your break from the midday. He's Carl Shoney. I'm James Pledger. We're sitting in for Michael Jimenez today, who is busy out on Radio Row in LA, as they've got a lot coming to you today. As a matter of fact, looking at some of the guests we got lined up over the next few days, Warren Moon, Jake Plummer, LeGarrette Blunt, Kix Brooks from Brooks and Dunn, Mel Renfro, Icky Woods, Edward James Olmos, Michael Buffer.
Michael Buffer? We're not allowed to say it.
Yep,
we'll charge us.
I just stopped it there. Tim Byers, Andrew Zimmer, Diplo, Mike Golick, Pac-Man Jones. Like, they are going for days out at Radio Row. It is awesome. But we always like it when you're a part of the conversation. A lot been going on in the NBA. I know we've been very, very heavily centric, but news is flying at us left and right. Lots to react to.
Oh, the Super Bowl's
you want to
happening.
react
That's right.
to 656 ESPN 210-656-3776. Kielbasa Bacon phone lines are open to you. And we had reaction to the James Harden trade. Welcome on to halftime.
Hey, guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you loud and clear.
Okay. All right, yeah. Now, and first, I say this, the Spurs have and always will be my team. I go back to the Larry Keenan, Iceman days, but I am an NBA fan. Dr. J, probably outside of the Iceman, my idol. Having said that, I'm actually happy for the Harden trade, and I'm happy for you, Carl. And let me tell you why. I don't see it as a problem like Pledge was saying, how it's going to work out. I think it's more of a problem for Brooklyn now because they're both primary ball handlers. How's that going to work out when Kyrie does play? With Embiid, you can do the pick and roll, and Thunder is coming down. I love it, and I'm excited, and I can't wait for it. But also, I just can't work today. My Twitter feed has been blowing up. My son's messaging me. I'm seriously thinking of just calling in the rest of the day. Hey, thanks for the shout out, guys. Love y'all. Keep it going.
Hey, we
Thanks so much for the
only
call.
got an hour left. You know, if you can power through an hour of distracted work, you should be okay after that, and then you can kind of decompress. I already saw on Twitter. One of my buddies that's on Spurs Twitter, Eric Salinas, says, I need a beer. It's been a rough day. It's not a rough day, but, you know, it is a bit of a bummer for D. White fans today. You know, hopefully he has a lot of success in Boston. Zach Lowe reports that is a top 4 protected 2022 first-round pick that came over with Josh Richardson and Romeo Lankford. So that means
don't got to worry about that for the most part.
Yeah. That means that the Celtics would have to miss the playoffs and then win the lottery, which determines the top 4 spots. So,
and adding a Derrick White helps them in their playoff chase, I would think. As we look at it, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this as what he said. Yes, Harden and Embiid in the pick and roll is going to be a very good thing. In terms of Simmons, though, I see him working very well in New Jersey, well, Brooklyn.
Yeah.
But I see him working extremely well with the Nets because yes, he is a point forward, as you would say, in most senses, and Kyrie Irving still, as of right now, can only play in half of the game. So you're going to need somebody to take over that role when he's not there. He can do that very efficiently and doesn't necessarily need to shoot. So that works out very well for them, I think. He does a lot of other things defensively, rebounding, and also he can play the 4 pretty easily right now for him when Kyrie is in the lineup. So I think it's going to be kind of a nice ebb and flow between when Kyrie's in and out with them.
Yeah, we'll start off with the first part of that. Ball handling, James Harden with a pick and roll as a screener for Joel Embiid is something that they never did with Ben Simmons. He was the point guard. He wasn't a point forward. He was the point guard with that team. And then when he wasn't the initiator on offense, he just kind of stood around. I didn't really understand Doc Rivers' role with Ben Simmons. It didn't seem like they really communicated well. And I honestly thought that played a big part into why he wanted to be traded, not just the Atlanta series, but everything leading up to that, where they just kind of didn't really seem like it was a fit with coach and player. Now, when you're talking about Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, you can sort of slide Ben Simmons into that Draymond Green role where, yeah, if he gets the rebound and he wants to push the break, he can be the offensive initiator. But more often than not, I see him sort of playing out of the high post pivot, being a distributor. He's one of the best passers in the league, and he will be somebody that I think plays really well with Kyrie and KD, who are going to be the primary ball handlers when they're on the court.
Before we go to break, we got one more phone call on the Kielbasa Bacon phone line, 656-ESPN, 210-656-3776. Eddie dialed him up. Eddie, what's going on, man? What do you think of the Spurs moves?
Well, hey, man, first of all, great show today. I think having you guys today is perfect, especially with all of Carl's knowledge on the Spurs and yours as well, James. But I'm bitter. I'm a little torn by this because I think all of the moves have been great. The Derrick White one, I'm not too sure, only because, I get it. As a Spurs Nation, we've all been complaining about his play up to this point. But DeJounte seems to really like Derrick White, and he seems to be a little upset. He just tweeted an eye emoji a few minutes ago. But, it is what it is. Derrick White, maybe he can have better success in Boston. And by the Spurs getting a bunch of draft picks, maybe they hit on one or two, and that's how we got to rebuild, because obviously the Spurs don't get free agents really to come down here. So I'm torn about D. White, but I think overall, I think it's been a great day for the Spurs.
Appreciate the phone call, Eddie. Of course, if you want to sound off on what has been a abnormally busy day for the San Antonio Spurs this time of year.
2 trades in a day.
2 trades in a day, 4 on the season. It's just hard to keep up with Brian Wright's doing so much. We're going to continue to talk about this. Keep an eye on what's going on. Woj and Shams their alerts are set. We're ready to break any news as it happens, plus everything live from Radio Row. AA Best Bail Bonds big game coverage live in LA rolls on all week long. It is brought to you in part by Texas Cheer Liquor, the Nearside app, and of course, as always, it is brought to you by AA Best Bail Bonds and Southern Recipe Small Batch Pork Rinds. We're coming back with more right after this on Halftime in San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250 and 103.3 FM.
Didn't catch R&R in the morning?
Here's what you missed.
The storyline of Kanye is entertaining.
I'm telling you, and bless his heart. I say that both.
You sound like a country dude. Like, that's all country folks say, bless his heart.
I know that he's got some medical issues that he doesn't tend to.
That's another country word, tend to. Well, that's country. It don't get no more country than tend to.
Rob Thompson, Rudy J. Weekday morning 7 to 10 on San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN 1250 and 103.3 FM.
If you get arrested, get out of jail fast by calling AA Best Bail Bonds, 210-225-2121. Text bail to 474747 or online, mybestbailbonds.com. You don't have to call attorneys or anybody else. Don't be forced into a PR bond. If the jail offers you one, make sure you understand the conditions before accepting it. AA Best Bail Bonds. Nobody beats their price. They have payment plans. Call 210-225-2121 or mybestbailbonds.com.
License number 149.
How do I know this check's going to clear? Is your money any good? I heard about you guys like that. Yeah, well, let me tell you something. We've already bought $1 billion worth of your used cars in 2021. $1 billion with a B. That means we do what we say we're going to do when we say we're going to do it. And our money's good. And our transaction's good. We've got our stuff together. 1,000 to 100 grand, we're all over it. Where? Only at GiveMeTheVin.com. America's best car buyer.
Sell us your car. GiveMeTheVin.com. So easy you can do it in your underwear.
When you fill your prescriptions at Walgreens, you can track the progress of your order in real time. Know the price of your prescriptions before you go to pick them up. And anytime you have questions, use Pharmacy Chat to ask an expert 24 hours a day. Help with your meds from Walgreens. Side effects may include breathing a little easier because your prescription stress melted away. Learn more on the Walgreens app.
This price isn't final. This is an estimated price based on your insurance coverage.
This week on RVER, sponsored by Progressive Insurance. I'm sorry, I can't operate on that vehicle.
But doctor, you took an oath.
That RV, it's my son's RV.
Oh, doctor, isn't there anything you can
I'm not a miracle worker, Sheila. I'm an RV surgeon, trained to save the lives of large, injured recreational vehicles, which is definitely a real profession.
When your RV really needs saving, Progressive has you covered. See if you could save with a leader in RV insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, covered subject to policy terms.
America's Diamond offers our 5-year, 60-month financing program every day of the year. You don't have to wait for a sale to get 5-year financing with credit approval, or wait for a sale to get our guaranteed America's Diamond price, because we treat everyone fairly and with respect every day of the year. For almost 40 years, we have designed and created our extraordinary diamond jewelry right here in San Antonio. When you buy at America's Diamond, your money stays in San Antonio. Our whole company is located here and locally owned. Our kids and grandkids go to school here. All 40 of our coworkers live and shop in San Antonio for everything. Through the years, America's Diamond has supported thousands of wonderful charity events in San Antonio. We're the official jeweler of the San Antonio Spurs and of the University of Texas at San Antonio Athletics. See our television program about diamonds and jewelry tonight on ABC KSAT 12 at 12:35 a.m. or see it right now at americasdiamond.com.
That dinner was delicious. What's next?
I'm thinking just the check.
Do you frequently have gas, bloating, diarrhea, stomach pain, or loose oily stools after eating? One or more of these symptoms could be a sign of exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI, and it may be time to talk to your doctor.
If you have EPI, Creon may be right for you. Creon, pancrelipase, is an oral prescription medication that treats EPI. Creon replaces enzymes you may be missing to help you break down food properly.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosis colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Do not chew capsules or contents, as this may cause mouth irritation. Tell your doctor if you have unusual or severe stomach pain, bloating, trouble passing stool, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, worsening of painful swollen joints, or allergic reactions. Other side effects may include changes in blood sugars, gas, dizziness, or sore throat and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon.
Talk to your doctor about Creon, the #1 prescribed EPI treatment, and visit gocreon.com. That's GOCREON.com. Or call 1-800-633-9110.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
The big game is finally here as we hit Super Sunday, and BetOnline.net has you covered with more odds, lines, and props than ever before. BetOnline.net, where the game starts.
Live, local, loud. KZDC, San Antonio Sports Star. ESPN, AM 1250 and 103.3 FM. Michael Jimenez.
Halftime. Welcome back into halftime. This is half 2. I'm James Pledger, sitting in for Michael Jimenez, joined by my man Carl Schoening. The producers have taken over the show.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
On what is an incredibly efficient day. Valentine's Day, your birthday, whatever we want to call it, is NBA trade deadline day, and we are nearing the trade deadline as the Spurs have been hyperactive with 4 trades overall, 2 alone today, 3 within the last couple of days, and the Spurs are now have a gluttony in their war chest as it pertains to draft capital.
So as it stands, they own their own first-round pick for this 2022 NBA draft.
A likely top 10 lottery pick.
They are also likely to get the Celtics, which is only top 4 protected pick. And the Celtics right now are in the play-in tournament as the 7 seed.
Mm-hmm.
And today with the Thaddeus Young trade, they were able to get Goran Dragic, who will most likely be bought out, and a lottery-protected first-round pick. So if the Raptors make the playoffs,
which we expect them to,
that'll come to San Antonio as well. So we're talking about 3 first-round picks in this year's draft. And yeah, you know,
and
Derrick
future
White
drafts,
and Thaddeus,
when you look at the Bulls picks.
That's right. Chicago gave the Spurs their 2025 first-round pick for DeMar DeRozan. So, you know, Brian Wright, it seems like he's been given the vote of confidence that he'll be here a few years to be the GM for the Spurs, because a lot of his draft picks in the second round are like in 2027 and 2028. Better start scouting those middle school tournaments.
The most recent of the trades is fan favorite Derrick White finding his way into Boston. As you mentioned, you get that first. You get Romeo Lankford, a young guy, and Josh Richardson, kind of that 3. You know, 6'6", kind of. He plays a small forward, and maybe he can roll out to the 2 if you need him.
He's a bit of a journeyman, honestly. Josh Richardson,
Raptors,
Sixers, Mavericks.
I meant Mavericks.
He's a solid player, and I understand that.
Solid.
Yeah, the accumulation of Romeo Lankford, who's only 22 years old in his 3rd year in the NBA, and a first-round pick. Derrick White is a good player. He's the best player in the deal, but he's going to help out a playoff team like Boston.
He is, and you're getting a first-round pick. And I've said it for a few years now. Derrick White reminds me a lot of George Hill in terms of he is a great dude. He is a very good player. He is a fan favorite, but I don't think he's a part of the future unless he was part of something that netted them the future, and that might have. C. Cole TX78 says the Spurs are pretty much hitting reset. I'd take potential and athleticism and Kai Jones and another pick and take a chance on PJ Washington and that pick. He is obviously alluding to Hoops Hype's reported interest in Jakob Poeltl, as Jakob Poeltl is being rumored to the Charlotte Hornets in exchange for PJ Washington, a first-round pick, and Kai Jones, who was a projected lottery pick last year out of the University of Texas. He has not lived up to that as of yet, but a 4th first-round pick.
How many first-round picks does Brian Wright need? And then,
I don't know. How many do the Thunder need?
Yeah, that's true. They have like 17 over the next 7 years.
Plus, when you talk about these picks, though, how many do they need? Even if you get all 4 in this year's draft, look at what the Thunder did last year. They had a pick that was Alperen Şengün sliding down the board, and he was perceived to be a top 10 type talent. Somebody decided they wanted to move up from the back end of the first. And actually, the Rockets retained their own first and moved up and got him. They gave away future first in order to move up. The Spurs can use these picks, if there's not somebody that they like, to trade for more future first-round picks later. So don't think that all the first that they may acquire maybe end up being used next year. These are just chips to use for future moves a lot of the time.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
and also it's great trade capital in terms of acquiring players.
Yeah, so many deals happen that we're not privy to on draft night, or communicated, I should say. Necessarily, if they happen, we know about them, obviously.
And Gabriel Chacon asks, where's Jeff Garcia? Bet he's busy today.
Is he still on for 1:30?
He is still
has a lot
on
of writing to do.
As of right now. He will be joining us at 1:30, but it has definitely been a busy day in his world. I am absolutely positive of that. But as of right now, I have 0 updates that he is not going to be joining us at 1:30.
So there was a trade that happened during the break. A minor deal that doesn't really implement the San Antonio Spurs, but the Pacers are finalizing a trade to send forward Torrey Craig to the Suns for Jalen Smith and a future second-round pick, sources tell ESPN. That's according to Adrian Wojnarowski. And, you know, the thing about that is that's very similar to the framework that we always heard rumored about the Spurs and Thaddeus Young. And overall, if it came down to the Suns' second round pick or maybe a first round pick for Dario Saric and or Jalen Smith. I think the Spurs made the right move for Thad to get the Raptors first round pick because he is somebody who can help a contender. And I think that the Spurs just helped two teams in the East sort of solidify their spot in the playoffs, and they're going to get their first round picks that could be in the early 20s, late teens because of it.
I like that these moves are also freeing up minutes. Devin Vassell has proven that he should be in the starting lineup. Josh Primo is now probably not going back to Austin this year with the moves that we've seen made. There are other potential moves. Jakob Poeltl would be one of them. Of course, I could also see Lonnie Walker being a part of a move at some point. Doug McDermott is a possibility of being moved, although I think of the three, that is the least likely of the moves that they will make. But I also see this as you say playing for the play-in tournament. Sure, play for it. I'm about it. Go for it. As long as the young guys are given an opportunity to run at it. But if you don't get it, I'm also not upset because it feels a lot like you're moving on from a lot of these veteran players, giving the reins to the younger players, which can go one of two ways. But Jakob Poeltl's value will never be higher than it is right now. He has an extra year left on his deal. He is at a bargain right now. He is playing outside of his mind. I don't think that his value could get higher. I don't see why you wouldn't trade him, accumulate more assets in this draft, especially. Here's the thing. Right now, the Spurs are kind of 8th overall in the league in terms of record. Right,
they are not in the area. They are not in the play-in tournament.
No.
But they're looking at probably around the 8th overall pick the way it's going, I think.
But if everything were to fall status quo in the lottery, somewhere around the 8th to 10th pick,
I could imagine it's in the 7 to 10 range. Yeah.
You know what 4 first-round picks also allows you to do?
Trade up.
Trade up if there is somebody like Paulo Banchero, Chet Holmgren, Jabari Smith, Patrick Baldwin, somebody that you like near the top that you would like to get your hands on. It gives you ammunition for that as well. This is fantastic for me. I see this as the Spurs finally ripping the Band-Aid off. This has been a team that since Kawhi left has been toiling around the bottom of the Western Conference playoffs. And then when you lost your other stars in DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge, it's toiling towards trying to make the play-in, but you're still efforting it. Like you're finally ripping the Band-Aid off, getting rid of the veteran players and allowing that youth to develop. And I think this is a great thing for the Spurs, and it helps to expedite the rebuild. What are your thoughts, Carl?
This was all about a year of figuring out what the Spurs had. It was okay, Lonnie gets to kind of step into the 6th man role. DeJounte and Derrick get to start together. Devin Vassell's going to build off of his rookie year and his sophomore year. Keldon Johnson continues to sort of be the small ball 4 that can kind of flex out to the 3 depending on who's in the lineup with him. Jakob Poeltl becomes one of those guys that really can do whatever he continue to build on what he's been building on, and he's been excelling at it. Just unfortunately, it wasn't enough. You love what you see out of DeJounte, and you know that Devin Vassell has a lot of talent. Josh Primo probably is one of the best offensive talents that the Spurs have had in years, but none of them are actual, with the exception of DeJounte, bona fide all-stars, and you need a few of those to contend.
And a quick reminder, Jeff Garcia joining us here in about 15 minutes. He's going to break down everything that's going on for the Spurs. But like you said, I want to point towards what Michael Irvin said earlier today on R&R in the Morning. If you missed any of that, the video is now available. Go to sasportstar.com, our big game coverage page right there on the front. You'll see the video of Michael Irvin with R&R this morning. They talked about scheme versus player and how the league and the NFL has shifted from my best dude's going to beat your dude. And that, there are times that's just going to be the play, to more scheme heavy. My scheme is better than anything else. In the NBA, it has shifted the other way. It is about players. Scheme is secondary when it comes to the NBA right now. It's about having stars, and the Spurs simply just don't have enough stars to compete with the uppers of the NBA right now.
And that's the goal, is to sort of build that up. I wanted to note that I saw on Twitter, and then I lost it, that apparently there's also a right to swap 2028 first-round picks. So if the Spurs have
in the
Celtics trade.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so if in 2028 the Spurs have a first-round pick that's in the late 20s, and the Celtics have a pick in the early teens, there could be a swap there. I'll find out from a more official source. I was just scrolling the timeline and lost it. I didn't actually see who I read it on, but it is a fast and furious day here on the Twitter timeline, and for those of you that get push notifications.
Here's the great thing, too. This has got to be a fantastic day in the world of Brian Wright, because one thing I haven't seen today? That stick figure meme with the dude in a stick poking at the Brian Wright. Come on, do something. Haven't seen that meme at all.
No. This has been the most active the Spurs have been on the trade deadline ever.
In my lifetime.
Yes. I was looking at it the other day, and it's like they've only made 5 moves since the 2005 trade deadline. And that's fine. With the position the Spurs were in all of those years, it made sense. I think one year they traded for Melvin Ely, and another year they got Steven Jackson for Richard Jefferson. And there aren't too many trade. One time they traded away Theo Ratliff.
Yep.
So there weren't too many opportunities for big blockbuster trades, because the Spurs had Tim, Tony, Manu, and Bruce, and good role players on top of that. Their roster was already built.
Yeah.
This roster, it's a young roster, and it's going to only get younger with these first round picks coming in. And
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no.
Look at the Memphis Grizzlies and the way that they built the roster. Jaren Jackson, Bane. You look at Ja Morant. Like, they built through the draft and supplemented later with free agents. The Cleveland Cavaliers have done the same thing. They built through the draft with Garland and Sexton and multiple high first round picks.
Mobley.
And Evan Mobley this past season. And then they went out and used some of that capital to go acquire Jarrett Allen and Lauri Markkanen in this offseason. And now the Cavs are a force in the Eastern Conference and firmly in playoff contention. A good team in a smaller market is built usually through a combination of the draft and free agency.
It's really a crapshoot, because draft and free agency are the only way you can actually make your team build. So yeah.
I'm saying,
I know
if
what
you
you're
look
saying.
at most teams, because the big market teams usually build it through free agency. You go out and you get the big name players, you pair them together, and then you try and put everything together on top of that, right?
Yeah, well, there are guys there are teams that's, like, for example, the Suns sputtered from when Steve Nash was traded to the Lakers until they got Chris Paul. And they hit on DeAndre Ayton, obviously, with the first overall pick, although they could have gotten Luka Doncic. We won't talk about that, but that's how it goes. They made a good trade for Mikal Bridges. They were able to develop a later lottery pick. I want to say Devin Booker was 11, and they were able to make Devin Booker the superstar that he is. So it isn't just making your draft picks these top 5 guys and they might not become something, because obviously there's plenty of examples of mid-lottery guys or mid-first round picks becoming all-stars or even superstars. So really, it's the NBA. It's a crapshoot. It's a lot of development that comes down to it. It is a lot of trades. It is, are you going to be able to sign a free agent that's a key free agent? Maybe if there's an aging superstar or a disgruntled superstar, you're able to make those trades. And you just hope that all the pieces fit together. It's really hard to contend. Spurs fans are so spoiled because they had so long with so much success. So much success. You're never going to see the success of Tim Duncan again. I'm sorry. He set the record, along with Pop, for consecutive 50-win seasons. It's just not going to happen again. And honestly, this is the way to go about it. The Spurs sort of see the writing on the wall. Unfortunately, this season didn't work out too great because I thought that they were going to be able to get 44 wins or, be in playoff contention. And here we are at the trade deadline, and it seems that they're more sellers than buyers.
And here's another important fact to kind of keep an eye on. The Spurs have 3 first-round picks currently in this upcoming draft, correct?
As of this moment, yes.
There's a possibility they could add a 4th.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, with the trade deadline that is now 40 minutes away from ending.
At least a 4th.
Correct.
Or more, depending on, Lonnie or whatever. But there's the possibility for more.
Yes.
You think San Antonio values this upcoming draft class?
I would suppose so, but like you say, it just creates a possibility.
Sure.
It creates possibilities more than anything because first-round picks in this era of the salary cap space are some of the most important things that you can have. And because you know what you're going to have to pay these guys for the most part. You know what the rookie scales are. And instead of, for example, we were talking about Jalen Smith earlier.
Yep.
He's not as appealing as a first-round pick because we know what Jalen Smith is. There's something about a first-round pick that you get to select out of the guys that are left on the board this upcoming draft that seems to be better than, hey, we know what this guy is. And that's what the Spurs are sort of banking on, is that sort of lottery ticket, if you will. You never know who's going to fall where and be able to trade up or trade down or trade into the next draft.
The unknown is so much more appealing than the known.
Especially for us talk show radio hosts.
Well, almost anybody. Like the unknown.
Oh,
like
Twitter loves it, I'm sure.
Oh, it's not just Twitter, just in every aspect of life. The unknown is always, there's so much tied to the unknown and what it could possibly be versus the known. Look at Deal or No Deal. Deal or No Deal is a perfect representation of this. There is a guy sitting there that came in with $0 that has the offer on the table of $750,000 or something like that, or $300,000 because there's a suitcase that they still haven't opened. And then all of the sudden, next, they're like, I'm going to press my luck because there's possibly $1 million in this suitcase I have. The unknown is always greater than the known.
Yes, and I've already seen on Twitter people are interested in getting the copyright for Huevos Blancheros. So we'll see if somebody like Paolo Banchero will be coming to San Antonio and be a fan favorite with the Spurs, because it does seem like the Spurs are sort of pivoting towards next year's draft.
Mm-hmm.
They're still going to give opportunities, obviously. I think there are a lot of Spurs fans who have always been clamoring for more minutes for Primo and Vassell, and it seems like that's going to be a situation that you're going to see the Spurs put in where they play those young guys a lot more. But just to recap some of the craziness, before we came on air, Thaddeus Young was traded for Goran Dragic, and the Spurs were able to get a first-round pick from Toronto that's top protected. Then James Harden was traded for Ben Simmons. We'll say you the details. That's the meat of it. Seth Curry also went to Brooklyn.
Give me the meat of everything.
Yes. And then we also have the Spurs trading Derrick White for Josh Richardson in a first-round pick and Romeo Lankford. So busy a couple hours here on halftime, and there's still a lot more to come.
Still a lot more to come. There is rumors of Jakob Poeltl. There are other rumors out there, so we'll keep you opposed. Jeff Garcia joining us next to break everything down and what could still possibly be in the move. It's been a busy day for him. I'm sure he's probably glued to his phone like Adam Schefter and Adrian Wojnarowski. Mike Beans on our YouTube live says, bring on Banchero. But of course, if you want to call the Kielbasa Bacon phone line, 656 ESPN 210-656-3776. Of course, they're always open to you. Like Alex. Alex joined. What's going on, Alex? What do you think of today's moves by the Spurs?
Guys, I think we have all, if you're a true Spurs fan, you've been clamoring for something like this for about 10 years. Because, I mean, they don't make any kind of splashes at all. And I've been saying since the beginning, I mean, Minix and a couple of the other guys thought I was a nut to say that Derrick White needed to go. I mean, it just, the writing was on the wall. You can't pay a guy that kind of money for what's been this year and the end of last year mediocre performances. You might as well start over and rebuild. And I love what they're doing. I mean, you have some really good pieces. You got Zach Collins, who was a bargain. You wound up getting, McDermott, who's a shooter. We have some good pieces on this team. I think it's great
Absolutely.
they're blowing it up and getting those draft picks. And the way that this team drafts, who could not be excited? I mean, you're looking at the potential 3 to 4 first rounders, and you're going to have a ton of cap space. Kudos to the Spurs for doing this.
Appreciate the phone call, Alex. Of course, you can always dial them in. Voice your opinion on today for the Spurs. It's a big day in Spurs history. 656 ESPN 210-656-3776. But coming up next, we're bringing you straight from the insider himself, Jeff Garcia, will be joining us next on halftime right here on San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250 and 103.3 FM.
San Antonio Sports Star is headed to L.A. Get the latest news, moves, analysis, and world-class roster of guests all week leading up to the game. R&R in the morning, halftime, and the Blitz all live from Los Angeles.
Joining us now, the Moves, Gerald Johnston. We get to talk to Michael Irvin. Marcus Ware joining us now.
Don't miss a minute all week long. Presented by AA Best Bail Bonds, Nearside App, Texas Gia Liquor, and Southern Recipe Small Batch Pork Rinds. ESPN 1250 and 103.3 FM.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but thought it would be too difficult? Then try Babbel. Babbel starts by teaching you words and phrases that gradually get more complex. Soon, you're practicing short conversations. So in 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking a new language in a few weeks. Babbel is built around real life. It teaches you practical conversations that you will actually use. Babbel, language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free. Just go to Babbel.com today. That's BABBEL.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Guys, did you know that starting around age 30, men's testosterone levels can decline naturally? As a result, you may experience low energy, lack of focus, problems in the bedroom, or even depression. If that's you, then it's time to rethink your health. The solution? Testosterone replacement therapy with Synergenics. It's easy. Just take the test at one of our clinics in the San Antonio area. For more info and to schedule an appointment, head over to 800lowt.com today and get your life back.
Water stains on the shower glass. Try rubbing some shaving cream on them.
Tyler's cleaning crew knows every housekeeping trick in the book.
Handling timesheets now.
But they need a proper bookkeeper to keep finances tidy.
New equipment is a business expense, right?
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Instant Match instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Guys, stop what you're doing. Give me a few seconds of your time and let me give you a piece of advice that will change your love life forever. Have you noticed you've been losing a little pep in your step? Has your lady friend asked you, is everything okay? Do you find yourself having trouble rising for the occasion? Do you stress out before that special moment and wonder, is it gonna work? Guys, I'm going to let you in on a big secret. You don't ever have to worry again. The Mojo Male Enhancement Formula has you covered. Mojo is the 100% guaranteed male enhancement formula that guarantees lasting success, if you know what I mean. The Mojo Male Enhancement Formula is safe, natural, and effective every single time, guaranteed. Yeah! Mojo is available in a fast-acting spray and a quick-action capsule. Do yourself and her a favor and call Pure Line Nutrition in San Antonio today. They'll get you set up for success. Call 210-494-2210. That number again is 210-494-2210. Mojo Male Enhancement, only available at Pure Line Nutrition.
Hey, team, it's a full house. We got to pick up the pace.
At Hank's Restaurant, the line goes around the block.
Is this for 12? Okay, I need the truffle oil drizzle.
What he needs is another line cook.
Oh, man. Are the quail breasts still in the sous vide? Dave, can you keep an eye on that, please?
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Instant Match instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
So I just picked out the perfect ring. And that night, my girlfriend started seeing ads for wedding dresses. I haven't even popped the question yet. Why is she seeing ads for things based on what I'm looking at online? I downloaded the DuckDuckGo app, and I stopped getting creepy ads right away. DuckDuckGo is the easy button for privacy. With one simple download, you can search, browse, and email privately. Take back your privacy online for free with DuckDuckGo. Privacy simplified.
Giving you an excuse for a long lunch break. This is Halftime with Michael Jimenez on San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN 1250 and 103.3 FM.
Welcome back to Halftime right here on San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250 and 103.3 FM. That's right, we got some new digits for you. Tune on in. We sound really good on that station. You can hear us a lot farther out, too. I was out in the lake last weekend. Heard us crystal clear all the way out there, out in Canyon Lake.
That's nice.
It has been a busy day. We have talked a whole lot of basketball, which I understand. Carl, this is your bailiwick, but it's also Jeff Garcia's, our man from Ken's 5, the Spurs digital reporter and host of the Locked On Spurs podcast. Jeff Garcia, welcome on to Halftime. How you doing, my man?
Busy.
Really?
Busy.
I thought
this isn't a busy day for the Spurs. You're supposed to just turn your phone off, take a nap.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. As a matter of fact, I was getting ready to go out for a nice crisp run on the treadmill, and then next thing I know, notifications are flying off the window. No, is it very clear, Carl, James, what this team is doing? They called it a day.
Yes.
They called it a day.
Rip the Band-Aid off, as I like to call it.
Ripped the Band-Aid off. It was time. James, I know you texted me, before we got on right now, and you said, like, hey, look at my tweet from previously, about the P.J. Washington, Pirtle, Kai Jones thing. Just yesterday, I tweeted out after the loss to Cleveland, the Spurs are now at that point where they have to do something about this season. Call it a day or really push for this play-in spot. And, the route they went. When you trade Derrick White, what more do you have to see that this team is looking to simply just really go all in on this rebuild? And Carl, let's just face it, they're preparing themselves nicely for future moves in the immediate future, this upcoming draft pick, and in the future, let's just say either in the last 30 minutes or in the off season. I like this. They had to do this. This was needed. You look at last night's game, Carl, they just didn't look right. There's like something, they were checked out. Just the way they were playing. And I think they knew. The writing was on the wall. That you get the log jam at the guard spot. You got a guy named Primo who's promising he needs minutes. Get these guys development, out there, and away we go. Thad Young, that was expected, and nobody should be shocked. But what you should be shocked about, or pleasantly surprised about, our first round picks are coming San Antonio's way. That's exactly what this team needed to do. This is exactly what this team needs to do in this rebuild. Get draft capital, whether that be just to keep them and pick where they're at, or flip them with some of these young players they have now. Romeo Lankford, maybe they can package him.
And with all of these picks that they've acquired, Jeff, now sitting with 3 in this upcoming draft, do you think this upcoming draft in 2022 has some special meaning to them?
Oh, yeah, it really does. But my thing is this, is that the one guy that I'm actually surprised hasn't been moved is Lonnie. I thought for sure he would be gone. Maybe
there's still time.
In the next 30 minutes, may submit the paperwork before end of business day, or in this case, 2 p.m. Central. But I really thought that he would probably be one of the first to go. I thought maybe Lonnie would be in that package to Boston, not Derrick. But good on Brian Wright. Good on him.
Yeah, if you're going to be a seller at the trade deadline, that usually means you're giving up the better player in the trade. So if you're a fan of the team, you want a good first-round pick. And in this situation, Thaddeus Young for a first-round pick that's looking to be somewhere in the late teens, early 20s. Derrick White to get off of your books, and Richardson's on the last year of his contract next season, so that means you don't have what was the longest-term contract on the Spurs going forward. Love D. White. That makes me a little bummed out to see him go, but he's going into a good situation. So the Spurs did right by him, and the Spurs get a top 4 protected pick from Boston. So that's going to be a nice addition to whatever they end up doing this offseason, because I've really liked how Brian Wright sets himself up for success but doesn't make bad moves. I don't think anything he's ever done has been a bad move per se. You know, Marcus Morris, I think that might have been his first move as GM, and that's not on him. That's actually a good move, if you ask me, and it just didn't work out. And that was almost the spiritual beginning of this rebuild, because the Spurs coming off of the playoffs and an upgrade from Davis Bertans to Marcus Morris would have maybe made them a, you know, somebody that could contend for home court. But then when that fell out, the Spurs lost their floor spacer, and things just kind of went downhill from there. Now we fast forward to where we are today. The Spurs basically get rid of their oldest two players in Thaddeus Young and Derrick White and get 2 first-round picks out of that. So they're going towards the DeJounte Murray 25 years and younger timeline, and that's okay. I think a lot of Spurs fans are happy that they at least gave the young guys a shot this year. They didn't try to run it back with Rudy Gay and Patty Mills and DeMar DeRozan all in their 30s. They gave their 20-somethings a shot, and then they said, you know what, we're sellers at this trade deadline. We're going to get a couple first-round picks for some of our older guys and let them be contributors on playoff teams.
Right. And look, White goes to Boston. There's a familiar face on that bench, Ime Udoka, Will Hardy. So there's some familiarity there. So good on San Antonio. At least send them to a good, or at least a better team at this point in the NBA calendar. And look, Phoenix, what I was told was Phoenix was really pushing for Thad Young. I mean, to the bitter end. You know, they really wanted Thad Young, but the stickler was that draft pick. And that's what it did. But, you know, since Thad Young came on board till now, at least when he was a Spur, I was told that Phoenix was the spot that he would likely go to, but it looks like Phoenix just didn't want to cave in. Nevertheless, I mean, if you look at today's moves by San Antonio, again, I get it. There's still more time on the clock. But if they stop right now, I think it's an A+. I think it's an A+.
Yeah,
you know, Brian Wright did great.
Yeah, and one last spot on that. You know, I know Phoenix was always in the trade rumors for Thaddeus, but if they had gotten the first-round pick from Phoenix, that's a last 5 pick in the first round. I think the Toronto deal, keeps them with cap space because Dragic isn't expiring, which it looks like he'll be bought out according to Woj. So they preserve their cap space and they get a better pick. Home run by Brian Wright.
Home run.
Now,
go ahead, James.
Now, as we're talking about what the great job Brian Wright has done, do you think he's done as we're approaching the deadline? And if not, what could still be in the works?
I would say expect them to be very active come the offseason / NBA trade. NBA draft time. Because, Carl, you brought up a good point. You know, they got younger. Well, they added 2 younger pieces with Langford and I forget the other, Richardson. They're still in their early 20s. You know, you can flip these guys. With some of the second-round picks they have, you know, to try to either acquire more picks ahead of the draft or bring in some established younger players, so to speak, to this roster. This is a very pivotal moment. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no. You're spot on. Everything you're saying is right. We do have some breaking news. Can I interest you in breaking news?
This is breaking news from San Antonio Sports Star.
Washington Wizards have been busy. They sent Montrezl Harrell to Charlotte for Vernon Casey and a second-round pick. And then the Wizards sent Spencer Dinwiddie to Dallas in exchange for Kristaps Porzingis.
Wow. Well, there goes any hopes of that reported deal with P.J. Washington, Kai Jones, and the first pick for Pirtle. I needed that to happen. When Pledger showed me that, he texted me. He goes, "Jeff, check this out." I responded to him. I said, "Pledge, this has to happen. Make it happen, Pledge." It didn't happen.
I tried. I tried really hard.
I think. I mean, we gave the Spurs an A+. If they had pulled that deal off, I mean, it would be A++, 2 gold stars and a happy face. Because that first round pick and Kai Jones and Adam with Primo, it would have been great. But hey, it didn't happen.
I understand that sentiment, but also at the same time, Kai Jones has only played 16 games this year, all in 3 minutes per game is what his average came out to.
Heavy G League.
I know you saw some of the Greensboro games with Austin.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't play in the fourth quarter of a close game with Greensboro, which just kind of shows to me he really isn't ready to play at the professional level quite yet. I like his potential long term, but I kind of think you might be able to get more for Jakob Poeltl, and if anything else, he is still a nice piece to have with this team.
Absolutely.
So, don't give up on this team quite yet, because while 2022 isn't going to, yield a long playoff run, who knows what they can do this offseason, and Jakob Poeltl could be a very big piece for next year's team.
Absolutely. And you look at the Spurs in the immediate future, this season and, of course, into the draft. One, this was a very pivotal moment in their franchise, because I think if they just were typical Spurs and didn't do anything at the trade deadline, then we got a problem. Then my focus would have shifted straight to that draft offseason, because here you go, Spurs, you got all this money, you got these young players, you got a guy, Lonnie Walker, maybe you could have flipped them, you had Thad Young, what were you doing? But I think they salvaged this season. I think, although the record doesn't reflect how good this season is, if you were to talk to me and Carl and James years from now, like, wow, look at the Spurs, they're in the playoffs, look what they're doing, they're one of the youngest, brightest teams in the league, we would look back to this day in their history ahead of the draft and making these moves, acquiring draft picks, getting these first round draft picks, and the writing was on the wall, James, Carl.
Mm-hmm.
Juancho Hernandez, Gomez, Jazz, what did they get? Second round pick. Bryn Forbes, Denver deal, what did they get? Second round pick. Thad Young, Drew Eubanks, what did they get? Protected first round pick. Another pick again. So this is how the team was built in their glory days, via the draft. And this is the way they're going to get back to it, via the draft.
He is Jeff Garcia. You can follow him. His work is at Ken's 5. He is the Spurs digital reporter. Also, Locked On Spurs. Follow all the stuff at Locked On. Jeff, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy day. I know we're coming up on the end of the deadline, so get ready and let us know if anything else happens. All right, my man?
Definitely. Talk to you guys later.
Take it easy. That is Jeff Garcia of Spurs. Ken's 5 Digital.
So one more note on that Porzingis deal.
Mm-hmm.
Former Spur Davis Bertans will be going to Dallas in the deal with Spencer Dinwiddie.
That's just a great coup for Dallas in terms of getting players that fit really well around Luka Doncic. We're going to come back and put a bow on the show after this, take you up to the minute with all the news leading up to the trade deadline. He is Carl Schoening. I am James Pledger. Jimenez on location out at Radio Row in Los Angeles. Our AA Best Bail Bonds big game coverage, of course, always brought to you by Southern Recipe Small Batch Pork Rinds, the Nearside app, and I said Southern Recipe Small Batch Pork Rinds.
Did you say Texas Cheer Liquor?
I did not say Texas Cheer Liquor, because let's face it, when this is all said and done, you may need a nice bottle from Texas Cheer Liquor.
I know. I need to find out which one's the closest one to the station and go pick something up to celebrate all these first-round picks Brian Wright's gotten us. And pour one out for Derrick White. I'm going to miss D. White, one of my favorite players to watch.
Let's face it, that's really why you're buying the bottle. For Carl Schoening, at Carl ESPN, I am at I Am Pledger, or follow the station at SA Sports Star, of course. Call us on the Kielbasa Bacon phone lines, 210-656-3776, or follow along on the feed, Facebook and YouTube. Just search San Antonio Sports Star and subscribe. We'll be right back to let you know what's going down as the deadline nears its conclusion right here on San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250 and 103.3 FM.
The Rams, the Bengals, 4 quarters away from a championship. Who will raise Lombardi's trophy? Don't miss a minute all week from LA. Presented by AA Best Bail Bonds, Nearside app, Texas Cheer Liquor, and Southern Recipe Small Batch Pork Rinds. ESPN 1250 and 103.3 FM.
The San Antonio Spurs kicked off their annual rodeo road trip with a loss to the Cleveland Cavaliers last night, 105-92. The Cavs' Darius Garland led all scorers with 27 points. For the Spurs, they were led in scoring by Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell with 18 apiece. The Spurs also made a trade yesterday afternoon before today's 2 p.m. trade deadline. sending Juancho Hernan Gomez to the Blazers in a 3-team deal. The Spurs got Tomas Satoransky and the Utah 2027 second-round pick in return. Tonight in Texas NBA action, the Rockets will host the Raptors in Houston with a 7 p.m. tip-off at Toyota Center, and the Mavericks play the Los Angeles Clippers in Dallas, with that game slated to tip off at 7:30. For San Antonio Sports Star, I'm Carl Schoening.
So here's the deal. If you're an entrepreneur, a contractor, gigster, self-employed, or a freelancer, that means you're in business for yourself, which means you can get a business bank account that pays you back 2.2% in 2022. It's called Nearside.com, and right now, it's free. I get it. Usually when banks say free, they drop the R and it's fee. Monthly fee, overdraft fee. With Nearside, there's no fees, not even a sign-up fee. I'm talking free. The kind that feels like sunshine and makes you do a happy dance, especially when your Nearside debit card pays you back the 2.2 in 2022. That's 2.2% of everything you buy for taking care of business. From a laptop or a paintbrush to work shoes and cheeseburgers, it's free money back into your business. No hidden fees, just really, truly free. Start your free account today at Nearside.com/free. Debit card rebate restrictions apply. Visit Nearside.com for details. Nearside is not a bank. Banking services are provided by Lending Club Bank N.A. member FDIC. Nearside.com/free.
Hey, team, it's a full house. We got to pick up the pace.
At Hank's Restaurant, the line goes around the block.
Is this for 12? Okay, I need the truffle oil drizzle.
What he needs is another line cook.
Oh, man. Are the quail breasts still in the sous vide? Dave, can you keep an eye on that, please?
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Instant Match instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
So I just picked out the perfect ring. And that night, my girlfriend started seeing ads for wedding dresses. I haven't even popped the question yet. Why is she seeing ads for things based on what I'm looking at online? I downloaded the DuckDuckGo app, and I stopped getting creepy ads right away.
DuckDuckGo is the easy button for privacy. With one simple download, you can search, browse, and email privately. Take back your privacy online for free with DuckDuckGo. Privacy simplified.
Hey y'all, this is your girl Cheryl Underwood, and I want to tell you something. My digestive system used to make me feel sluggish, but those days are over. Now I feel great. That's because I increased my fiber intake with the Metamucil 2-week challenge, and I'm still hooked. I just took Metamucil every day for 14 days, and it's really that easy. Metamucil traps and removes the waste that weighs you down, so you feel lighter and more energetic. Now I never want to go back to that heavy feeling. Are you ready for the Metamucil 2-week challenge for a coupon and daily support? Sign up at Metamucil.com today.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $700 on average, and those savings add up. Imagine what you could buy in the future.
The graphics are so real on this video game console I bought with the savings from switching to Progressive 10 years ago. I can't tell what's real and what's the game, which I think is what people want, in the future, which it is currently.
So switch to Progressive and save big, because those savings can add up in the future. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. National annual average insurance savings by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive in 2020. Potential savings will vary.
All used cars are not the same. At Give Me the VIN, we pay more for the clean ones. You got a nice one that's nicer than everybody else's? Go to GiveMeTheVIN.com, load it up. I'll pay you more. If it's normal, we'll pay you the top of normal. If it's crappy, we'll pay you the top of crappy. But we do understand the difference at GiveMeTheVIN.com, and we can price them both. But we're America's best car buyer because we bought $1 billion of cars in 2021. Only at
Sell us your car. GiveMeTheVIN.com. So easy you can do it in your underwear.
Hi, I'm Emmitt Smith, Pro Football Hall of Famer and 3-time champion.
Pro Football's all-time leading rusher Emmitt Smith talks about joint pain.
Trust me, I know about joint pain. Sure, I made it look easy, but if my body could speak, it would say, I'm in pain.
Are you living with chronic joint pain? Knees, hips, lower back, shoulders? Don't just assume the old treatments are the only treatments.
I've gone under the knife to get rid of pain, but now there are options, and you need to check them out.
Emmett's talking about QC Kinetics, exciting new natural biologic therapies that can repair and restore damaged tissue in your joints. New options now available here.
You can encourage your body to actually heal itself with the help of QC Kinetics.
Real relief with no surgery, no drugs, no downtime. Call the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics for regenerative restorative treatments with lasting relief.
But now, you and I, we have help. QC Kinetics.
Start now with a free consultation at QC Kinetics. 210-571-0318. That's 210-571-0318.
Call today, 571-0318.
The Rams, the Bengals. We've got you covered all week long, live from Los Angeles. Don't miss a minute all week from LA. Presented by AA Best Bail Bonds, Nearside App, Texas Chia Liquor, and Southern Recipe Small Batch Pork Rinds. ESPN 1250 and 103.3 FM.
This is Joe Reinagle. Jason Minix and I will get you caught up on the latest news, moves, and more this afternoon, 4 to 7 on San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN 1250 and 103.3 FM.
Welcome back to halftime right here on San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250 and 103.3 FM. I am James Pledger, filling in for Mike Jimenez, along with my man Carl Schoening, as we take you basically up to the deadline. We're going to get you as close as we can and just keep it locked for any other news that falls out right here on San Antonio Sports Star. The latest news happened during our interview with Jeff Garcia as
Kristaps Porzingis moves to the East Coast, as the Washington, D.C. Wizards will be taking him on in exchange for Spencer Dinwiddie and former Spur Davis Bertans. It looks like the Mavericks will also send a second-round pick to the Wizards as well, according to Woj.
Now, is this the first time in NBA history that a Latvian's been traded for a Latvian?
It has to be. There aren't that many Latvians in the world, period. They only have like 4 million people in their country. That's crazy. That's a good, very astute point by you there, Pledge.
You're very welcome. Every once in a while, I bring something to the table.
The Latvians are low-key really good at basketball, but they're actually one of the best hockey teams in the world. But I digress.
I look at this, and I like the move for the Mavericks. It's good for them, but we are getting very, very close to the trade deadline. The Spurs have been incredibly active, and there are only a couple of more minutes before we reach that deadline, about 10 minutes as we sit right now. So, as we sit, are the Spurs done?
Well, I don't think anybody's done until the bell rings, because you never know what's going to come in last minute, what maybe was discussed earlier in the week that gets revisited now that so many dominoes have fallen. Those might be the last options for, a team to improve or maybe find a young piece. But I kind of do think the Spurs are done. You have to look at their cap situation. I don't think that there's really a situation where the Spurs will be maybe adding more salary cap space at this trade deadline. They've done a good job of getting first-round picks, and they got 2 first-round picks today. I think that you I'm not saying you quit while you're ahead, because, Brian Wright's going to obviously be keeping his phone on until 2:05, but after that, I imagine if you want to call it a day for the Spurs, then that's okay. But I think there still is potentially something still in the works. The 76ers, according to sources on Twitter, say that they're still going to try and make some other kind of deal. So you never know if the 76ers maybe want to go for one of the Spurs players. I don't know who. Then that would be somebody that could potentially be a trade partner. But you never know. 30 teams in the NBA, there's not going to be anybody with their phone off.
Here's the real big question as we've entered the final few minutes. If the Spurs are done, and we kind of assume they are, they've made a bunch of moves so far to this point, do you see Russell Westbrook being moved at any point?
No, from what I've read about Westbrook, it seems like they're going to wait until the offseason because they're going to be able to trade 2 more of their first-round picks. But the Lakers have already mortgaged so much of their future at this point.
But here's the thing. When you bring in a LeBron James, isn't that what you're doing? You're mortgaging the future for current success.
So I agree with you to that extent. However, there isn't really a trade that the Lakers can do. They've been just dangling Taylor Horton Tucker out there for something. Well,
the problem is, and I think he would fit a little bit better, John Wall makes it better. The problem is the Lakers are reluctant to include their 2027 first-round pick, which is the only pick that they have remaining, thanks to the rule that you can't trade away consecutive picks in multiple drafts.
And it wouldn't be a smart move by Rob Pelinka and the Lakers brain trust to trade Russell Westbrook for John Wall, because John Wall, he's more of a question mark than Russell Westbrook. What if he goes out there and because he hasn't played that much, he hasn't played at all this year, he didn't play much last year, what if John Wall is not a answer that the Lakers are looking at, and they've given up another first-round pick for a failed experiment.
The Nets are going all in, right?
I would say that they're going all in a bad situation. They've already gone all in on, but they get some draft picks out of the James Harden, Ben Simmons trade if you're just joining us.
Mm-hmm. So with those picks and not being afraid of the luxury tax, could you see them bringing in some reinforcements in some way, shape, or form?
The Nets?
With what they've acquired?
I don't know why the Nets would want to make another deal. They got Seth Curry. They got Andre Drummond. They literally added a shooter, a forward that can play point guard, and a center that can be a true backup to pretty much anybody that they want to start at center, if not their starting center. Andre Drummond's having a really good year. So I don't see the actual need for another trade for Brooklyn. But Philadelphia, yeah, all of a sudden they need to find a shooter.
Look, we're getting extremely close to the deadline. It's going to be wild. Keep an eye out. Of course, go to the sasportstar.com right now. Predict the perfect score for the big game this Saturday, and you could win $50,000 brought to you by Dietz Tractors. Of course, our big game coverage rolls on at Radio Row in LA, brought to you by AA Best Bail Bonds, the Nearside app, Texas Cheer Liquor, and Southern Recipe Small Batch Pork Rinds. Keep tuned. The Blitz is coming your way at 4 o'clock. Tons of good guests, including Warm Moon, joining. Don't go anywhere.
Roll home with Joe Reinagle and Jason Minix.
His name is Kenny Pickett. He does not want to get measured for the hand measurements. It's part of the draft process because he has a double jointed thumb.
As we talked